Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I did want to let you know that my website has officially switched over to katiefarinas.com, and my email has switched to katie@katiefarinas. .com, sorry, katie@katiefarinas.com. And my Instagram is now katie.farinas. So everything is unified. And if you're looking to find me in any way, you can find me through Katie Farinas. I've also started a Pinterest page, and I'll link that in the show notes. And I'm also on LinkedIn. And so you can find me lots of different ways, but always through my name, just trying to make it nice and easy for anyone who's searching for me. The website transfer went overall pretty smoothly, but we are still having a few little glitches. So if you are struggling at all to get in touch with me, please email me or DM me on Instagram, and we'll make sure that we get things worked out. If you're trying to book a discovery call or send me a message, ask me about something, and you're not getting through my email, or you're having trouble booking a discovery call on my website, just DM me and we'll make sure that we get you taken care of. And hopefully the little glitches will smooth out. Also, my previous website, momontheverge.org, is forwarding directly over to katiefarinas.com right now. So if you happen to put that in, it will send you over to my new website for probably the next year. So all the previous links will still be active. Anything that you had, if you were part of my summit over the summer, that will still remain active for the next year. Okay, so now on to the show. So I have decided for the next 4 minisodes, we are going to do a series called Finding Your North Star. And I decided to do this for many reasons. Finding your North Star basically means learning to connect with the deepest part of yourself, learning to connect with your essence, with your soul, with your higher self. This part of yourself that I'm referring to goes by many different names, but it's all the same thing. It's that part of you that came into this earthly plane with you and will leave with you once you are done with this lifetime. It's the part of you that knows that you are love, you are compassion, you are peace, you are all of the elevated emotions. The part of you that knows that everything is always okay. The part of you that has deep wisdom and guides you in this life. And what I have found in coaching clients and in speaking to people on my podcast and in observing the world around me, especially now when things are, there's a lot going on in this world right now. And it is challenging often to overcome the noise on the outside of us and listen to that higher being inside of us. And so I want to give you a series of Dharma talks, which are just, talks on this topic, along with some meditations to help you reconnect with that deepest part of yourself. And this first week, we are going to be talking about your inner compass or your inner lighthouse. When my kids were little and I was really overwhelmed, I was experiencing migraine chronically. My kids were not good sleepers. There was a lot going on for me at that time. I was depressed. And I remember saying to my husband, I feel like I'm this little tiny boat on the huge ocean, and the ocean is just throwing me around at its will. And I have no power and no control over what happens to me. I'm simply just tossed in whatever direction the ocean decides to toss me. And in this analogy I was giving, the ocean was life, right? Life was just throwing me around in all these different directions without my consent, and it felt it felt scary. I felt really out of control. I felt overwhelmed. I felt frustrated. I felt a lot of different feelings. And I don't think that I'm alone, right? I think that when we aren't deeply connected to this inner part of ourselves, we then allow what happens on the outside of us to dictate how we feel. And and what we think and how we behave and how we interact with people. And so it feels very confusing. It feels like we have no inner guide, no compass, no lighthouse. That's it. In the boat example, you could think of it as your inner guide being a lighthouse, right? So no matter what happens in the ocean, no matter how it moves you, the little tiny boat around, you always have this a lighthouse on the horizon that you're keeping your eyes toward, that allows you to know which direction to go, and what to do despite what's happening around you. Um, when our systems go into overwhelm, our natural reaction is to shut down. And so a lot of us do shut down when we become overwhelmed by what's happening around us. We shut down to our emotions. We shut down to even the people around us. We want to numb. We want to distract. We want to disconnect, because it just all feels too overwhelming. But when that happens, when the outside world gets really chaotic, the best thing that you can do is to return to that inner compass, is to find the stillness and the silence inside of you and get in contact with it. This higher self, this essence always holds the answers. And if we can learn to return to it over and over and over again, we will strengthen how it communicates with us. So we can get information from our higher selves or our essence, our inner compass, our lighthouse, whatever analogy works for you. Sometimes it comes in downloads where it's just something that you know. Sometimes it's something that you actually hear. It's if your voice is speaking to you, but you know it's coming from somewhere higher. Sometimes it comes through a conversation that you have with someone else, or something that you read, or something that you listen to, where your inner self knows this to be true. But we have to be connected to our inner self in order to do that. We have to learn how to hear and acknowledge and know that the things that we hear from our higher self are true, right? Because it's easy, and I've done it many times in my life, to dismiss what my inner compass is trying to tell me, because the world is very loud, it's very noisy, and it's very chaotic, and information is coming at us at a very fast pace all of the time. And that's where the overwhelm comes from. And then we go into shutdown versus the overwhelm coming at us and we make an intentional decision to turn inward towards our highest selves, and to be quiet and to be still and to listen and to be open and receptive, right? Because answers don't always come immediately. But when we set the intention to be open and receptive and hear what our inner compass is trying to tell us, the answers will come, but we have to have faith in that. Trying to navigate life without this inner compass is really, really difficult. It's like I said to my husband back then, that I felt like I was this tiny boat on this huge ocean being knocked around. It's there's nothing to guide you. There's nothing for you to hold on to. There's nothing to give you that sense of safety, when things outside of us feel very unsafe. And so when I talk about, Dharma and moving into your soul's purpose, the first thing we need to do in order to move into our soul's purpose is to learn to be in touch with that inner compass, to learn to listen to it, to learn to trust it, to learn to follow it when it guides us. And until we can do that, we will always be the little boat on the ocean. We will always be tossed around by what life sends our way and feeling completely out of control and overwhelmed and wanting to kind of tap out or numb out. Um, it really, living your soul's purpose requires that you be in touch with your soul, right? And what it's trying to say to you. So with that in mind, I guess I'd ask the question before we move into this meditation. I would invite you to ask yourself, how often do you listen to your soul? How often do you get messages? How often do you intentionally set time aside to be quiet and still and listen to what it's trying to tell you? How often do you feel like you're that little boat on the ocean being tossed around by life? And do you want different? Do you want to feel, that inner sense of calm, steady, trust, belief, faith, knowing, wisdom, um, even when things outside of you are very, very chaotic? I will tell you that in my personal life over the past couple of weeks, it's been pretty challenging. My father-in-law had an unexpected emergency surgery that could have ended poorly, and thank goodness it did not. But that was very scary for us and for our family. Um, I myself have been pretty sick and have had a really challenging time with migraines. My daughter wound up in the emergency room because of a migraine over the past 2 weeks. I was in a car accident. There's been a lot. There's been a lot going on. We had some difficulties with my son and a friend of his, some really challenging things that happened there. And so it's why I decided to do this series, because life was really spinning around me, not to mention the election and the new president coming on, and all that's happening with that, and the wildfires in Los Angeles. There's so much happening in the world right now, and I can see people spinning. I see it. It is abundantly clear to me. And I want everyone to have this skill of returning to peace despite what the ocean is doing to you. And that even when the ocean is raging, there is hurricane class 5, whatever they call the biggest hurricanes out there, and you are on your little boat in the ocean, that you have that lighthouse to look towards that is going to tell you what to do, where to go, what to say, how to react, to respond, I should say. It's going to give you guidance on how to move through these really challenging times. And it's going to help you to create meaning from the challenges, to create beautiful things that can come out of the challenges. It is going to give you the inner peace that I know everyone so desperately wants, and freedom from, because when I said that to my husband, I didn't really recognize it at the time, but I felt it, but I couldn't articulate it. I didn't feel free. I felt so trapped by this ocean that was throwing me around and I had no control over. But when we learn to navigate the storms of life using that lighthouse or that inner compass, that's freedom. Right? That's where freedom comes from. We can't, I'm sure you've heard the expression many times, we can't choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we respond to them. And that choice of being able to center and ground and calm and come home and choose what we want to do with what is happening, that's freedom. And I want you all to have that. I want you all to have that freedom. And it doesn't mean that it's going to happen all the time. Over the past couple of weeks were there moments where I was like, whoa, like this is a lot. This is too much. Um, sure, of course, I'm human, but I return to my practices over and over, returning to meditation, returning to my yoga practice, returning to my journaling. And actually, it helped some blocks that I kind of peripherally knew were there, come up, but now they are front and center. And I'm working through these energetic blocks that are only showing up for me because I kept returning back to my inner compass. And so if you're looking to create a life of purpose and meaning and joy and peace, you have to keep coming home to yourself. You have to keep creating space for the silence to speak, because that's where our inner compass, or our soul, our higher self, our lighthouse, whatever words you choose, that's where it speaks to us. It speaks to us in the stillness and the silence. And so we have to make space for that stillness and silence so that it can speak to us. And the more we allow that to happen, the easier it will become to hear what it is trying to say to us. If you haven't been doing it, it's a skill like any other skill, a muscle, like any other, when we train any other muscle, it is the more we lean into it, the more we intentionally listen for it, the more we follow its guidance, the more we ask it for guidance, the more we set the intention to live from that space and keep returning to the practice of silence and stillness, the more it will show up for us, and the greater amount of freedom and ease and peace and purpose and joy that we will be able to experience in our lives. So I invite you, if you are somewhere where you can do this meditation, to get yourself in a comfy position, either seated somewhere in a chair on the floor or lying down somewhere. Get yourself comfortable, and we will begin in just one moment. Okay, now that you have found yourself in a nice, comfortable position, I invite you to close your eyes. Just take some nice, long, deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Drawing air in the nose all the way down the chest and into the belly. And then fully releasing that breath. Feeling the chest and belly rise with your inhales, and then fall with your exhales. Noticing the pause between breaths. Maybe there's a little pause at the top of your inhale and a little pause at the bottom of your exhale. What lives in that pause, that stillness and silence? You don't need to answer that question. Just becoming aware of the pause, that it exists, and that silence is a space where your inner self can speak. Imagine yourself in a totally dark room. You don't know it, but the room is filled with beautiful things that light you up and make you happy. But in the darkness, you can't see it. As you try to walk around the room, you begin bumping into things, stubbing your toe, bruising your knee. Your hands are out in front of you, and you're trying to feel for what's around you to stay safe. But inevitably you trip over something, and you have to grope your way up to standing. This is what it's like to try to navigate life without our inner compass. It's like trying to walk around a room in the dark and not bump into anything. But when we begin to connect to our higher self, it's like having a flashlight with us in this dark room. So imagine now you're in this room, but you have a small flashlight, and you turn it on, and you begin to shine the flashlight around the room. And in every direction, you illuminate something beautiful, something that makes you feel joyful, connected, purposeful, something that makes you feel free, loved, easeful. And you know that life is more than groping around in the dark. You can start to see there's actually a path around this room. There are many paths, and the flashlight helps you navigate them safely. Now imagine all of a sudden the overhead lights come on in the room, and you can fully see everything that has been surrounding you the entire time you were in the room. All of the things that make you feel loved, that bring you peace, that bring you joy, it's all been there all along. You just couldn't see it. The light is hidden deep within you. It's always been there, and it always will be. It never goes out, and it waits for you, waiting to guide you home through all the storms of life. The light is your essence, the deepest part of who you are, and it talks to you and guides you all the time. Moments of insight, inspiration, feelings of safety, openness, receptivity, and lightheartedness all come from your inner compass. The key to being connected to our inner compass is to listen to it so you can hear what it's trying to tell you. Our inner compass lives in the silence. It speaks in a whisper, in subtle sensations, in downloads and knowings. And if we're going to hear it over the noise of this world, then we're going to need to get quiet and listen. Your higher self is guiding you towards the best version of you. The version of you that was meant to live a life of creativity, purpose, joy, of service, of love. So in this silence, ask your inner compass, what is the best for me? What is the best I can be? And now just listen. Listen to the silence, to your essence, to your soul. Your essence is your guide, and meditation is the vehicle that transports you to that silent, still part that contains all of the answers. For the next few moments, let's journey home to our essence and listen for its guidance. Please begin silently repeating the Sanskrit vibration Ananda. Ananda means joy or bliss. This is the joy and bliss that comes from coming home to yourself. When we silently repeat this vibration, we are calling into ourselves joy and bliss. We can only experience this type of freedom, joy, and bliss when we live from our inner compass. Ananda, Ananda, Ananda. Silently repeating it over the next few moments. Let the mantra come in its own timing. There's no need to force or concentrate. Just allow it to come when it comes. Ananda, Ananda. I will call you back when it's time. Come back to your body, releasing the mantra, just feeling your breath. Knowing that you created the space for your inner compass to speak to you. Maybe you received some information during this meditation, or maybe it will come later. Just trusting and knowing that it's always there for you, always there to guide you home. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes, but just remain in the stillness just a little bit longer. Remembering that silence speaks. Silence is where the most important knowings, wisdom, information will come from. So the next time you feel lost, overwhelmed, needing answers, turn to your inner compass, go to silence, and allow it to speak. I hope this was helpful. I would love if you're on Spotify, if you could comment, let me know if this resonated with you. Otherwise, you can use the show notes to email me or DM me on Instagram. This is the first, as I mentioned, in this series of Finding Your North Star. So look forward to more meditations like these and more information about how we can come home to ourselves. And if you are ready to take a bigger step, to start living a life of purpose and meaning, joy, peace, and impact, if you're ready to reconnect with who you really are and what you are meant to be doing in this world, then come on over to my website, katiefreenis.com, and book a discovery call with me. And we can talk about what it feels like to live the way you were designed to live. I love you all, and it is my greatest honor to be able to serve you and connect with you through the podcast, through coaching, through my yoga classes. I truly am deeply grateful. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Hi, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, I ask that you please like the show, follow, subscribe, or share. The way that podcasts work is the more people that do one of those things, the more likely it is that when someone's looking for a podcast to listen to, our show will pop up for them. I started this podcast because I really see there's a great need in our world for people to feel more peace, joy, love, and acceptance in their lives. And I think we can do that when we have a greater sense of self-awareness. We could become conscious creators of our own lives. And I'm seeking to do that for as many people as possible. So if you could help me by liking, sharing, or subscribing to the show, I'd really appreciate it. And hopefully someone hears a conversation that changes their life. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Much love.